Hi everyone, this is Laura and welcome back to my studio. I'm really happy you guys are here to join me today. It's not an unboxing, but we're going to take a look at a really special item that I pre-ordered before Christmas. It got in right before Christmas and, spoiler, I already opened it. I was too excited to break into it and open up and create some artwork. So this is not technically an unboxing, but I still want to show you guys the kit and everything that was included in it because I think it's just a really awesome product and I wanted to show it to you guys. So let me go ahead and grab it. I pre-ordered the Jazza's Pro Artist Kit and it was pre-ordered in October and I finally got it before Christmas and I'm so glad that I got it. I'm super excited. Everything is just as great as I've seen in the videos. I mean, let's just open it up and I can't wait to show you guys. I already did some swatches for the markers that are included in this, and let me just do a shout out to Jazza. Thank you so much for putting this kit together. It's absolutely amazing, perfect for anyone starting out with illustration or wanting to get involved with, really any kind of artwork that involves, markers, colored pencils, and all of that. And you really hit the mark on this, and kudos to you and your team for, putting this together. You are awesome, and thank you so much. All right, let's go ahead and dig into this box and let's go. All right, let's go ahead and get into this art box and see what Jazza's got in store for us. I'll go ahead and turn it because I want to make sure I don't hit the camera equipment. Okay, so I'm going to push it back so hopefully you guys can see that. Yeah, I think you guys are in frame. Okay, so it starts off with a thank you card from Jazza and Spectrum Noir, which is awesome, and it's got some coupons and different things like that for the purchaser, and of course a little letter from Jazza. So I'll set that off to the side. I'm not going to read it because if you want to see what he has to say, you need to get your own. And then of course, just like in his video, he did include the beard. And that was hysterical. I loved watching that video. I like all the other little illustrative stickers that are in there between the markers and the ninja marker warrior sneak attack thing going on here, marker swatches. This is really awesome. Thanks for the stickers, Jazza. Okay, so the first thing we get to is the dual tip brush markers, and these are all alcohol based by Spectrum Noir. And let's go ahead and pull these out of here. I'm gonna go ahead and set the box off to the side. Oop, you get a spoiler alert. Hee hee, spoiler. Okay, let me set this box off to the side. I'm gonna bump my camera back to where I had it. There we go. Okay, or at least close enough. Okay, so we've got the markers, the alcohol markers here, and Spectrum Noir did something a little bit different than their markers than some of the other companies have. And yeah, I'm not too good with preserving packaging, so mine broke right here because, I am just She-Hulk like that. But anyway, in the front, it shows you all the colors that are included along with their color numbers. So in the event that you wanted to go to Spectrum Noir and reorder a particular color, you can do that based on the packaging. Plus each of the markers, let's go ahead and pull one out. Oh, yeah, I said I'm gonna pull a marker out and I ended up choosing the blender. Yay me. Okay, so let's pull an actual marker, one that has, color to it. So this one is Blossom. Hopefully you can see that. And it's got the name of the color, a colored cap or tip of the cap, as well as the color identifier here, which is PP1. So if I ran out of this color and needed to repurchase it, I could go to Spectrum Noir and hopefully be able to do that if they have open stock. I don't recall whether they do have open stock or not. I will have to check on that, and I'll put a little blurb on the screen if they do or or not put carry the markers in open stock or not. But either way, it would be awesome if they did, because that way if you did run out of a particular color that you used all the time, you could reorder it. But back to the markers, the construction is that they're dual tipped, so that means there's a tip at each end, and one of the tips is a brush nib. Go ahead and hopefully you can see that. So this is going to be your workhorse. This tip is going to be the one that you're going to use for the majority of your coloring on your illustrations or coloring pages or whatever. You can block in large areas, as well as with that fine point get down into the small grooves of the detail areas. However, if that is not small enough, they do have a bullet nib on the other side. Most alcohol markers have a brush nib and a chisel nib. Like, hang on one second. Let me grab one of my other markers. This is just an example, but this is my Winsor & Newton Pro brush marker, and the one side has a brush nib just like the Spectrum Noir, but this one has a chisel nib on the other side. So it's a little bit different. Chisel nibs are generally used for blocking out large areas, but that just to tell you is that the Spectrum Noir is prioritizing the detail aspect of things rather than needing to fill out the large block of area, because they feel, I would imagine, granted I've never spoke to them myself, so this is hearsay, but I would imagine that they're prioritizing the brush nib to be able to do the same thing that the chisel nib does. And I know that, just at least from my experience, I could see where that thought process, where that would have come from. So anyway, these markers, I have tested them. They do work great. Let me go ahead and grab my sketchbook here. I went ahead and did a illustration of my wedding cake. I love doing different marker illustrations for sweets. So I did these two initially, not with these markers, but with a different set. And so someone had asked me when I posted them on my social media, hey, why don't you do your wedding cake? Because we had a strawberry shortcake and it's a very visually pretty cake. So I was like, so when I pulled these markers out and I was trying to figure out what to draw, it was the perfect opportunity. So this is how it turned out. You can see the colors are very vibrant. I was able to get the lighter tones as well as the deep reds. And this was all done in this one set. I didn't use anything else. And everything seemed to blend very well. Granted, I am not a super seasoned marker artist by any means. I've only used markers a handful of times, so I am very much still new to them. So there are some of the techniques that I'm just not well versed in because I haven't practiced them myself. So just keep that in mind. But for me, for, you know, my, I guess, more painterly style that I use them for, because I am a watercolorist primarily, these turned out really well for me. I liked it for the cake texture by, you know, rather than doing a solid color, I was able to work up the layers and build in the texture. And these worked really well for that. The actual pigment or hue of the colors worked really well for replicating the color of the cake from my wedding reference photo. And honestly, the way that the reds worked, this was a combination of 3 different red colors. In this particular set, it was a light pink, a mid-range red, and a deeper red to get the highlights, midtones, and shadows. And the way I was able to do them here, you can, to me, they look like they almost have like the strawberry juice kind of coming off of it, which is what I was going for. So everything in this illustration I was really happy with. I didn't really feel like when I was doing this particular one that I was missing anything. So Jazza has said that he has formulated this set personally as to what he feels would be the most well-rounded set of 24 markers. And at least so far, granted, I haven't done a whole lot of illustrations with it, but at least so far I would definitely agree with him that this is a very well-rounded set. Just by looking at, let me go ahead and close this up and set this off to the side. Just by looking at the colors he has here, he has a, you know, a light yellow and a dark yellow, and then he goes into the deeper tans. So he's got a light, a medium, a dark. He's got a some grays. He also has like the light pink, the red, and the Cardinal for the deeper tones. He even has a orangey color in here. He's got the light blue and the dark blues, light green, dark green. So it's varied, and it is broad enough with just this simple set of 24 that you'll be able to create a lot of really cool artwork with just what he's provided here. So thank you, Jazza. That was really awesome. You did a good job, in my humble opinion. So let's go ahead and move on to the next item in the box. I'm going to set the markers off to the side. Now, full disclosure, the markers are the only thing in this box that I have used so far. My original intention with the cake illustration I just showed you was to use the markers as a base and then go over it with the colored pencils. But I loved how the markers came out in the end, and I didn't feel like it needed any extra colored pencil. I really didn't want to add that to it. So I honestly haven't used anything else in this box. So I'm glad to be able to show this stuff to you. He's included, I believe there's 20 illustrations in this package of different drawings that Jazza has done, many of which he's featured on his channel. And so it's really awesome that if you're following one of his drawing tutorials from prior years, you know, you may be able to follow along step by step with some of these illustrations. I know some of them were filmed on camera, and so that would be a good thing for a new marker artist, you know, even such as myself, to follow along and see how he does everything and be able to learn from him. So thanks for including these, Jazza, and the paper is really nice as well. And then in addition, you know, of course, because he just made the entire set complete, in addition to the illustrations that he created here, he included the blank illustration paper or marker paper that, you know, you can use and you can create your own. So, you know, once you've done your practice or whatever and, you know, illustrated on, you know, maybe some of Jazza's, you can come over here and do your own and be able to, you know, create your own artwork. So very, very awesome that he's included that. And there's so much of it. I mean, look at how thick this package is. There is a lot of paper in here. He really went all out on this. Thank you. Okay, next thing I'm going to pull out is the colored pencils, and I'm going to, I did notice that this part of my of the packaging was actually damaged already, but thankfully it was just the packaging that was damaged. There wasn't anything else in the box. The tin is perfectly intact. The pencils, the eraser, as well as the pens, they're all good. So yay, thank you, thank you. Thank you to the postal gods for getting this package to me safely. Relatively anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna take this out. I'm also gonna, for the sake of ease, go ahead and take out the pencils, the pens, and the eraser, and that's all that's left in this box. There's nothing else in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and, oops, sorry about that, set this off to the side since we won't be needing to get into this box again. Okay, so we've got our pencils and eraser there that he's included, which every artist needs to have some good drawing pencils and a good eraser. These are the, let's see, do they have any? We've got the, oops, here we go. Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, there's the HB pencil, which is basically like a standard number 2 pencil that you would use when you're at school. So I'll pull these up a little bit closer so you can see them. And then there's the 2B pencil, so you're going to get some of your darker shades. So as a preliminary illustration, before you use your fine liners, you can go in with the pencils, get your rough sketch out, and then follow through with the set of fine liners that he has included to do your final line work before adding in the color. So let's go ahead, and while we're talking about line work and stuff, see, I tell you, boxes are not sacred around me. When I first opened these, when I first got the box, it just totally ripped, and I swear it's because of my She-Hulk strength or something. I ripped our door handle off of our closet door, for heaven's sake, so this box just didn't stand a chance. Okay, so there are 6 markers that come in this package. And they are the Art Liner by Spectrum Noir. And this one is the BR. So this should be, I believe, the brush fine liner. Yep, this is the brush marker. And then it has this one. Oh, by the way, on the tip of the cap, it has what the marker is. Hopefully it'll focus and you can see that focus. Okay, I think so. Anyway, this one says 0.8, and that is the thickness of the point of the marker. And this one is relatively thick, comparatively speaking, to some of the other fine liners. Small would be the equivalent to 0.01 or 0.05, and it goes up to 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 8. So this one is considered a thicker fine liner, so you can get thicker lines with that. But it's not like, let me back up. It's not like the brush pen, because the brush pen, you're going to be able to get thin lines, and you're also going to be able to get thick lines. You're going to be able to get varied tones because of the nature of using a brush tip versus just a standard bullet tip that's in a regular fine liner. So with this one, while you can touch the paper as lightly as you can, you may be able to achieve some kind of thinner point, but ideally these are just designed so that you get a thickness of 0.8 throughout your entire line. So you can go over some of the thinner areas and thicken them up for different effects and things. So those are really cool. Okay. Oh, I think I just grabbed what I shouldn't have. Yeah, sorry. This is a 0.5. So 0.5, I use this one a lot. To me, it's kind of a mid-range. 0.3 and 0.5 is kind of a mid-range is what I usually use these for primarily when I do my work. If I use a fine liner at all, which as a watercolorist, I don't use fine liners all the time, but I have been getting into marker illustrations a bit more. But even as you can see, the ones that I had in my sketchbook, I didn't have there weren't any illustrative black outlines with them, and that just happens to be a preference of mine. But I do have some illustrations, like some gouache paintings and things like that I have used the fine liners for. So when I get to projects like that, these will be really awesome for me personally. Like I said, this is the 0.5, so that's for me like a mid-range. This is a 0.3, again smaller but still in that mid-range area. So that's what this one looks like. Let's see if we can get a little closer here. Ooh, sorry, I'm getting totally out of camera here. My bad. There we go. Okay. And the rest of them, this is 0.1, and this one is the really tiny one. So we'll set that to the side for a second. So this one is the 0.1. So this one is really tiny. It's really small, but you can still get some decent lines out of it. I'll grab my sketchbook here and we'll swatch these out in just a second, but I just wanted you to see them first before I go and swatch them out so you can kind of have a point of reference. So this one's a really small one. This is the smallest one out of the set that he's given us, so it's the 0.05. And generally, if you get a set of fine liners, this is pretty standard, these sizes. The only thing that he included extra that some packs don't include is the brush tip. Sometimes sets of fine liners don't include that. So I'm going to set the fine liners off to the side for now. We'll go back and swatch them in just a bit here. I want to get through looking at the colored pencils, and then we'll go ahead and swatch everything out and you can see everything side by side, okay? So this is the 24-piece set of the Spectre Blend, or Color Blend by Spectrum Noir. And these, I believe Jazza said that he handpicked the colored pencils that were in this set as well. They weren't, I don't believe this was a pre-made set that Jazza got he put his artwork on. I believe he did hand choose these particular colors to complement the markers that he got. So this way everything goes together. So, okay, let's go ahead and open up this tin. And this tin it's pretty well made. The metal doesn't seem overly flimsy. It closes very nicely. It opens up fairly easily too, but again, it doesn't feel like it's just gonna fly off if you accidentally, you know, pick it up weird. So that's always nice. I know sometimes cheaper materials will have that effect. But looking at these colored pencils, they all have a pre-sharpened tip. Let's see if I can grab one of these out of here. Okay, so they look like they've got a pre-sharpened tip, but they're not a finely sharpened. They still have a bit of a blunt tip to them, and that's okay. They have the, what would you call it, burgundy barrel with the gold color blend by Spectrum Noir writing on them. And then of course they have the color of the pencil, which is raspberry, and the tip has the color of the pencil, just like all the ones down here have all the colors. So I'm not sure how well matched the color caps are to the lead that's in the pencil. This looks like it might be very comparable. This might be fairly similar, but it's hard to say until we swatch them out. So, all right, now that we've opened everything up, I'm gonna go ahead and grab some paper and we're gonna swatch everything out. I'm kind of being precious with the paper that Jazza gave us, so I really don't want to swatch it out on that. I want to save that for future illustrations. Okay, so we're zoomed in and we're going to go ahead and get started with swatching. I'm going to go ahead and start with the pencils and then we'll get into the fun stuff. So this is just a typical HB pencil, nothing fancy. You can get some nice shading in there if I can get it to there we go. I like how even though it's an HB pencil, it does lay down a good amount of graphite, so that's really nice. We'll go ahead and test the eraser and see how well that works. So looks like the eraser was able to lift up a lot of that graphite just fine, no worries. It does seem like there's some kind of a dusty film on this eraser. I mean, I pulled it out of the box this way and it seems like, okay, you know, like when you set out an eraser or really anything that's been, you know, untouched for a while and it's got that thin layer of dust, that's kind of what this feels like. So I was kind of surprised with that, but I mean, it works, so it's fine. It's just, I feel like I have to dust my hands off after I finish using it because I get that little film on there. Okay, so here, let me go back to the HB. So this is the HB. And this one is the 2B, which you can see already is pretty significantly darker than the HB. You can get a lot darker tones. Even if you're just deciding to do, you know, just stick into graphite, you can get a lot of different shading with this. You push a little bit harder, you'll be able to get those deeper tones and a broader range of value. So let's try out the eraser now that these are darker and see how well that works. So there's a little bit of there's a little bit of shadowing left over, but overall it's not bad in my opinion for an eraser. I think if you wanted to get something a little better, you could use a electric eraser and you probably would be able to get a better result. But overall, for what these are intended for when they were included with the set, they work fine. Okay, let's go ahead and swatch out the fine liners. This is the 0.5. So we have 0.05. And this one is very small. Okay, let's go ahead and try the next one, which is a 0.1. And this one's a little bit bigger. This one is a 0.3. I have to say, I really do like how these are writing. Again, remember I told you guys I only pulled the markers out of the box. So this is my first time swatching these myself, even though I've already opened the packaging. I haven't actually swatched these pens yet. So I really like how they lay down on the paper. They're very smooth. They don't seem scratchy. So that's really good. Definitely something that I look for in a fine liner. I don't like using stuff that's really scratchy. So this one is the 0.5. So this one, you can tell that there's a big difference in the thickness. I mean, at first it was kind of minimal, but if you look between the 0.05 and the 0.5, you're gonna get a lot thicker line. And this is typically, the 3 and the 5 are typically what I generally use for the majority of my line work if I do any on any drawings or illustrations. But I like that I have different other sizes that I can use for other things as well. So this is the 8, and it's even bigger. So what I was talking about, if you have never used a fine liner before, what I was talking about is you could start out with some of these smaller ones and then go into some thicker areas that maybe you want them to be in a little bit more shadow or want higher emphasis, and you could add in the 5 or the 8 and deepen those thinner lines in certain areas for a varied line effect. Now, this is the brush pen, and this brush pen, if used correctly, can give you, sorry about that, that was my phone going off. I probably should have turned the volume off. Anyway, but the brush pen, if used correctly, you can get as small lines as something like a 1 or even possibly a 0.5. Or 0.05, come on Laura, get it together. Or even something as thick as a 0.8 or maybe even more. So we're gonna go ahead and just write brush. And if you're into brush calligraphy, you know, this might be something to use for that. So I don't have a whole lot of brush control with something like this. So I'm gonna try to get as thin as I can. And then we're gonna press down. You can get a lot thicker lines. I mean, look at the difference in that. You got this little tiny line, and then you got this big thick. And I like that the black is actually black. I've gotten in other sets, I have a brush pen that's similar to this, just in a different brand, and it was almost like a dark gray color. It wasn't like a black color, and I really wasn't happy with that. So I use it for other applications where I don't want anything like super dark, but in most cases you want something that's going to be black. Now granted, my brush control is not all that great, so sorry about some of these other things. I'm sure some brush letterers are cringing at my letter usage here, but hey, when you don't use it, you lose it, and that's just something that I haven't practiced a lot, so yeah, it's all right. It gets the job done, right? Yay, there I am. Okay, so those are the fine liners. They'll be good for any artist that wants to go in and do some things. Sorry about that, my phone went off. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the colored pencils, and we're gonna swatch these out first. Now these, I haven't rearranged, I haven't done anything, so I'll go ahead and start over here and do some different swatches on this one. This is Poppy. I'm not gonna go ahead and write the color names on this. I really just wanna go in and look at the color in the order that they are in the tin. So that's Poppy. And granted, I haven't sharpened these again, so I know that I've heard from some people that use colored pencils, you know, on a regular basis, that you should re-sharpen your pencils once you get them, and you're going to get a better color payout. So, you know, if this doesn't seem dark enough for you, then that might be the ticket. Now, I do see that these are a little bit, let me back up. I usually prefer a softer pencil, and these aren't like super hard or anything, but they're definitely not as soft as something like a Prismacolor. And granted, I don't have any black paper to test their opacity, but if you're using them on white paper, they seem like they're fine. I don't see anything issues with it. This one is Nectarine that I'm using right now. I'll go back once I get this one swatched and go through the other color names, and you can see what those are. So the previous one, this one was Peach, and this other one is Raspberry. And I use Nectarine. So this other one is Honey. And granted, these color pencils, I will give it to them, they are soft. I won't say that they're not soft. They're just, if you compare them to a Prismacolor, they're not as soft. So, it is what it is. Okay, Canary. So this is going to be should be a real mid-range yellow, which it does look that way, and I like that color. This is going to be a lighter yellow. This is Lemongrass. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, this is going to be like, for any watercolorists out there, this is going to be your lemon yellow color. It's going to be your cool yellow. Okay, we're moving into our greens. This one is Grass Green. Okay. Very limey kind of green color. This next green is Shamrock. So you're getting into your mid-tone greens. Edging more into the blues, because this definitely has got more blue in it than this one does. So this is going to be your Alpine. So this is probably a, yep, dark green. So as you can see, he's arranged his set very strategically. You've got your light tone, your middle tone, and your dark tone. So you've got your pink, and then you've got your warm red and your cool red. And then going into your yellows, you've got your cool yellow, your mid-range yellow, your warm yellow, and then even going up into a orangey color. So you're going to get some really good blends with the set that he has put out for us, especially like even here with the greens, light green, mid-green, dark green. Even though these greens are different tone or different temperatures, I guess is the best way to do it, since this one is a little bit cooler and these are these are a little bit cooler and these are going to be getting a little bit warmer. But anyway, let's go into the blues. This is a Seafoam, so this is going to be like a turquoisey green color. And I have to push pretty hard to get this color payout. So this may be different if I sharpen it. I might get a better payout. Let me grab my sharpener. And sorry for the noise. I'm apologizing in advance. Okay, let's try that again. Let's try it over here. Oh yeah, much better. While I'm still pressing pretty hard, well, I wouldn't say really hard, but I'm still giving it some pressure. It still started out giving me a better payout than it initially started. So I did like that. Okay, next one is Denim Blue. Denim Blue. So pretty is the Denim Blue. So you got your light blue and then your mid-tone blue. Well, actually, I would say you've got your two light ones. This one kind of can go either into the greens or into the blues, depending on what you mix it with. So this would be your light blue, your mid-tone, and your dark. Okay. And then this is Blackberry, so we're getting into our purples. These colors are very, very pretty. Okay, this is definitely a warmer purple for sure because it leans more in the reds category. This is it's called Fireweed. That other one that I looked at, I'm sorry, this was Mauve. Mauve, and then this one is Fireweed. Fireweed, like seriously a plant, or that just a name that somebody just kind of pulled, I don't know, out from their back pocket somewhere? If anybody knows, let me know, because fireweed just seems a little odd. Maybe it's a real plant. I don't know. Anyway, okay, so now we're getting into some of their neutrals. Now, they don't have a whole lot of neutrals in this, and granted, it is only 24 colors. So this is Saddle Brown, and I'm not sure how well this cap is going to match up to this. We'll see. Yeah, that cap is really not all that matchy with this. So they tell you a lot of times if they have the color-coded caps to swatch your colored pencils, because chances are the swatch is going to give you a better reference of color as opposed to relying on strictly the cap. Now, the other one that I use, this one is called Saddle Brown. This one is called Cream. So these are going to be your neutrals, or your earth tones, rather, I guess you could say. Neutrals, earth tones, it's all the same to me. Pebble. Getting into a gray here. That might even be, if you got a little bit of brown to it, you know, it's kind of in between a brown and a black, and in real life. I mean, I'm not sure how it's picking up over the camera. It probably looks a little bit browner, but okay, so this one is a smoke. So this is a light gray. Seal gray. And granted, I haven't colored with grays very often, so I'm not super experienced with them, but I do like the varying tones that these have. So then we have our black. And then since the white is not going to show up on the paper unless we have something of substance down, I'm going to put a little bit of black marker down, let it dry for a bit, and then I'm going to go back in with the white colored pencil so we can see how opaque it is once that's a little dried for a little bit. I mean, it's probably, yeah, okay, it's dry now. Okay. I'm so used to paint that you have to sit and wait. Okay, so this is not a super opaque white to me. You're gonna get a much deeper white with like a Prismacolor. So I mean, unless you're lightening up one of these other colors, this would probably be okay. But if you're talking about wanting to get a bright white to stand out against like a dark background, I would definitely get a Prismacolor over the Spectrum Noir. Okay, let's go into the markers and move these a little bit closer. Hopefully you can see them a little bit better. Okay, so the first one is light yellow. I'm going to try to... Something when I colored with these I did notice is that the tips are really soft. And I'm not sure if I like that or not. Again, I'm not a real seasoned marker artist, so it could be that's something that I have to get used to. But the other markers that I have in my collection are the Ohuhu brush markers and the Winsor and Newton Pro brush markers. And both of those sets have a much firmer nib than these do. And I'm not saying it's bad, it's just different. I will say that the flow, I guess is the best way to call it, the flow of the ink is a little bit slower in these than it is with like my Ohuhus. And it's not like that with every color. Like this one's comparable, but like this yellow one up here, it took a little bit more time for the ink to come out. And I'm sorry, okay, so this is light yellow. This is canary, nectarine, tea rose, and red. This one is Cardinal. So if you look over in my illustration on this right side page here, let's see if I can get this a little bit closer so you guys can see this a little bit better now that we've swatched everything else out. It'll be easier if I can get this a little bit more centered in frame. You can see that I used this tea rose color in the really light areas of the strawberries, and then I went over it with this mid-tone red And then I deepened it on the bottom where the shadows would be with the Cardinal. And they blended and worked really well for that. So I do like the way these markers blend. This one is Emerald. And this is Alpine Green. Oh, I'm not sure if there's a correlation to color names because they had an Alpine Green in our colored pencil set. So I don't know if that's on purpose or, you know, a happy accident. This is Sky Blue. This is what I mean by you know, you have to kind of go over it a little bit for the ink to come out. It's not bad. I still enjoy these markers. And again, I'm not a super seasoned marker artist. I've only done a few illustrations, so it could just be my inexperience talking. Okay, that was Cobalt. Okay, now we're working on our bottom row here. And I'm gonna go ahead and put this up on my book so I can reach the colors better. This is Blossom. Oops, wrong one, wrong side. And this one is Hydrangea. And Purple. Now the next few I used quite a bit in my cake illustration. This is Sandstone. So I used this primarily for the shadows in the filling and the frosting on top, as well as in the filling of the cake, and even in the pound cake layers of the tiers. So I used Sandstone for that. This is Tan. Tan I used for a lot of the mid-tones. I really liked that it was a nice warm brown. It had a lot of warmth to it, some vibrancy. I really like that color. This one is Russet. So this is the darker brown, and again, very warm, rich color. I was really happy with these 3 earth tones. They really made me happy, and drawing with them was an absolute pleasure. This one was great too. This is the really, really dark tones. It's black brown, which is what I used on. This is actually a wood round from a tree stump that we used for our cake base. So that's what I used to try to get that darker wood texture. This is Brown Gray number 4. So that means this is going to be a warmer gray. And then this is Brown Gray number 8. And then we have Ice Gray number 4. So theoretically this should be your cooler gray. And it is, because it looks like it's got a bit of a blue sheen to it. And then Ice Gray number 8. And finally we've got Black. Okay, so all in all, I am really digging all the items that are in this collection. Jazza, again, you did a fantastic job putting this together. I obviously don't have as much experience as you do with markers, but just from my limited experience, I can see how much thought that you put into putting this kit together. And I absolutely sing your praises. It's wonderful. Thank you so much. I know other marker artists and just beginning illustrators and, you know, just artists in general are super thankful that you took the time to put all this together. I can only imagine how difficult it was narrowing everything down, doing all the logistics to put everything together, and it was well worth all the effort that you put through for us that were able to purchase your product and just absolutely have fun with it. Thank you so much for doing it. It's great. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and cut to a clip of me actually painting the cake so you guys can take a look at that, and then I'll meet you back here shortly. See you in a few. So all in all, I was really excited about getting this Jazza's Pro Artist box. It is a really good deal at $99, at least here in the US. And you get a lot of stuff for $99. I have bought many art supplies. I'm a bit of a hoarder, to be perfectly honest, but I have never seen a kit that is as complete as this one is, that contained a well-rounded set of markers, a well-rounded set of colored pencils that complement each other, as well as the fine liners and the pencils, and not to mention the paper and his custom illustrations. So he really outdone himself. He did a great job with this. I highly recommend this to anyone from a beginner artist to a intermediate all the way up to an advanced. I think anyone will get something out of this box, and I think everyone will have a lot of fun creating. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the studio next time. Talk to you later. Bye.